Hello, my name is Harvey. Welcome to my shop. We'll be right back. Today's scripture is Psalms 27:1. It goes like this: The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? All right. Welcome back. Right now, if you can possibly, you may be able to see it, but I've got two of them together. One of them has drawer slides in already. I'm going to show you how the method that I use to put these drawer slides in. It makes it a lot easier later. So we'll just get right into it. I took the back out because it's easier to work through here and work on the back, to work on these slides from the back. But there is this groove that you have to contend with, and you need to make sure that you don't, your drawer slides don't go past that, or you have a problem getting your back in. But to take care of that, I cut this little strip of the 3/4 inch or the 1/4 inch plywood of this 3/4 inch stuff, and basically it's acting like the back, so I can put that in there. And what I have is I made myself up, I figured out what the distance would be to the bottom, off the other piece. I laid everything out, I know where my drawer slides are at, and from that I made these templates. And what these templates do is, like, this is number one. I got this bottom because I'm working off the bottom and working toward the top when I put these in. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this in, I'm sliding it all the way up against there, and I have the second one marked as well as the third and the fourth, and they go in that sequence. So once this is in, I've established how far back in the bottom for the slide. Then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my slide in. Now these are soft close. They got this little plastic doohickey here that's got the little spring in it and everything. And in order to put this in, you got to kind of open this up. And basically what I'm doing is I'm laying it back down to the back, buttoning the back up to the back of my panel here, and then I'm sliding it right up against it. And just to kind of make sure, because on the side of these things, there's like a little groove. Ideally, I could have went with like 1/2 inch. I wouldn't have to worry so much about it. There's a little hump on top and bottom. That's just basically where the ball bearings roll. But as long as I don't get too tight, I want it snug there. And so basically I'm gonna be putting a screw here, one in the center here, and I've got this slid all the way forward. I think I have a slid all the way forward. Yes, I think I do. Yes, right there. But there's a slot. I can go screw there, put one here, and put one right back here. And I found, again, you don't want to over tighten these screws. You take a chance of breaking them. But also too is it does not take much to strip them out. The one thing I will tell you is you want to put enough pressure on the screws so that when your drill's turning, it doesn't slip, continually slip out. But okay, I put the one in the back in. Now I'm putting the center. I'm putting the front one, and I'm just trying to center it the best I can. And basically, I'm just putting enough on there to get that all the way down without stripping the top out, just in case I have to take it out at some point, taking that little screw out. So And that's pretty much it for the first one. Now, my second drawer is a slightly larger one, but again, what I'm doing is I've got backed up against here and against this one. So that one's ready to go. And as you can see, it doesn't take too terribly long once you get going on this. But it's a lot easier to do it this way than it is to try to have your cabinet already in place, and then you're trying to hold it up in there, and you know, gravity does a lot for you. So, well, there goes the screw. Hopefully I don't step on that in a little bit. And try to center those in the hole just so it doesn't unduly bind one direction or the other. And I try to go as far forward as I can. And then I'll do the center. And I overdid a little bit, but it stripped out a little bit, but it'll still hold. Now, without the weight of a drawer, you kind of got to hold some pressure on it for it to go back, but there we go. And then my template number 3 comes in. And if you notice, I cut these so they sit, you know, they'll sit here, but they're not binding up there either. So there's that one. Yep, there we go. Like I said, it's just, it's just rinse and repeat at this point. And the whole idea of this is so that everything is in straight. It's not going to bind, or, you know, you're not going to have, you know, it's not going to bind in the drawer. It's not going to, you know, it's going to slide in the way it's supposed to, and the drawer shouldn't be crooked. I mean, if the drawers are slightly off a little bit this way, you can compensate just a little bit. I mean, if it's not too bad, if it's off by like 1/16 of an inch, you can compensate with the drawer front, and you're really not going to notice it. But, you know, if it's off any more than that, you're going to be able to tell it. And the last shim, you know, like I said on the last video, there's some things that you can get away with 32nd to a 1/16 of an inch, but usually if you go any more than that, or it goes on for a long period of time, you know, you stop and think about it. You know, you have 6 or 8 of these drawer things, and they're off by a 1/16. By the time you get done with that 6th one, you're already off you know, an 1/8 and a half, and an 1/8 and a half, you can really start to see things. So, you know, you got to pay attention. But, you know, and sometimes, you know, when you're doing something, if you're paying attention, you know, and something does happen, then, you know, you can very easily correct it in the next one. If it's not something you can easily correct, you know, some things are a lot easier to correct. Say you get a screw that's off or something, and it's such a tight tolerance, like the last video that I did. You know, one of the stretchers, I think, was what the problem was, and, you know, it basically went right back in the hole because it was so close. All right. Now, that. Now let's get these back in. and then I'll show you the rest of it. Now, as you can see, whoa, what the fudge monkeys? See, like this one, that's out 1/8 of an inch. I can't let that go. You know, everything else seems to be relatively good. See, I was talking, I wasn't paying attention. So what I'm gonna have to do, the back's fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this out. All right, and that's one. And this will be the front one. Now, luckily this is a smaller drawer and there's another slide right behind it. All right, see that slid it over. So what I'm gonna do is the little hole right behind that one, about 1 inch back, you know, should still be plenty of strength in the right place. I'm gonna put that in. Okay, and then on this one, what I'm gonna do is there's another hole here, so I'm just gonna move that to the front. But in the process of that, there's a little hump here, so what I'll do is I'll put this screw all the way to the front of that hole. That way, all right, and there we go, and that's good. Okay, now put that all the way back. That's good. You know, like I said, you know, pay attention, double check everything, and you know, sometimes you make mistakes, but you can work through them. And if you see, these are coming a little tight to come out. Well, you know, so they're snug. So that's number 4. Let's do number 3. In the back, that one's not so bad. This one's the one that's usually a real pain. There we go. It came out though. And then this one not so bad because it's got this flat bottom. But anyway, that takes care of that. Let's make sure that everything's back the way it's supposed to be. So, and then of course we'll pull that out. So that's 1/2 of them. I'm just going to turn this up. All right. And now, all right. So now we're doing the other side. The only difference being is instead of the bottom being over here, it's over here. And you just need to pay attention to that when you start the process. This part's the same. That slides in there like that. That represents your back, and then your bottom. Last time the bottom was over here and it goes here, but this time it's over here. So we just start from here and move this way. Okay, so these slides, well, at least the ones I've got, and I think all slides do the same thing. They come in pairs, as a pair. Now, they're all made in the same place. You just packaged as a pair. Especially these types, you don't really have to worry about it too much. Now, where you'll have to pay attention to your pairs is like if you have bottom mount, especially like I believe it's the balloon bottom mount, because basically they're on the bottom and they come up the side. You know, it forms a U like that. So and the soft close on the back mechanisms on the back side of the hinge. So those you have to pay attention to. But these, that's the left side and that's the right side. It's just merely turn it over because, the way they're made. So on these, you don't have to worry so much. It's pretty straightforward. But, if you get into something like a bottom mount with like Bloom, you're going to have to pay attention because they are a pair and because of the way they're made. Now, they give you enough screws so that you can, in each one of these little packs, so you can basically put both pair on, and that's basically 12 screws, 3 to attach it to the side and 3 to attach it to the drawer per slide. So that's a total of 12. They give you, it's been my experience, there's one extra, so there's 13 screws per pack. I dropped one on the floor, wasn't too worried about it because I have one sitting over here from the last set of hinges I put on. Alrighty. Now, just gonna extend that out. Alright. This just keeps getting interesting. Alright. Now, and what I find once I stand it up in there, if I put a little pressure down on it, the tip of that screw, you can push that in, you know, just put a little pressure on it with your hand, and it'll push it down on the end of the plywood and it won't lock. Because even though this bit is a brand new bit and everything, it doesn't lock into these screws as well as some others do. And I'm gonna tell you one thing. Doing it this way is so much easier than trying to do it when you got your cabinets sitting up and they're in place and try to put these in. I've done it that way, and they sell the jigs. They sell those little jigs that you can clamp on the front. But I've tried those, and I've never found any of them that really worked for me. This is probably the best way that I've seen to do this. And those jigs, in my opinion, it's like Craig makes them. I know they do. I've actually used Craig before, and I guess it'll work fine. But I never been able to get them to work really well for me. I found this way works best. Now, I will tell you this: Craig does make some good. It's like their little jig for putting in the European style hinges. And also their jig for doing your putting your pins in for your shelf pins. Those two jigs are very nice jigs, and they work very well. But the one it works, but it's just the Craig jig works. It works. It's cumbersome, and it's not as easy as this. So ultimately, find the thing, if you do this long enough, you'll try different processes, and then you'll also find, you'll find the things that work and the things that you prefer. Just because I prefer this way doesn't mean it works for everybody, but I will tell you this, it seems to work really well. So, this piece is getting a little bit on the bent side. Tried this one out last time. Yeah. So we'll put this one in. We'll just double check it. Okay. Screws. Sometimes this is where it helps to be a little bit ambidextrous. I'm not too good, but sometimes you get in these positions that you need to be able to work from another direction. When I did the center one on last couple, I've noticed that it actually pulls it down, the whole hinge down. I do the back, then I do the front, and then when I put this one, it pulls everything down, so that's good. All right, number 4. Number 3. Now, I'll set this up and put the back in, and then that'll be it. There you go. So when we come back, I will have the drawer slides in this one. I'll have the 4th cabinet assembled, and I will have them all together, and then I'll show you how we go about, squaring everything up, anchoring it down, and hopefully putting the end panels on today. Well, welcome back. Got a lot accomplished since left you. I actually got the last 2 cabinets taken care of. And I actually got a little overzealous last night, and I decided to put everything together because I was a little bit anxious to, get it to this point. I even took the tops and put them on there. They're just sitting here, but I just kind of wanted to get an overall feel of what this thing is going to look like. But it's fully attached together minus the top. You got the screws, and I'm gonna get you in closer so you can kind of see what's going on. Now I'm gonna pan around here and try to keep this as steady as possible. But as you can see right there, you see those screws, and the ones on the bottom, I went all the way. Basically what these are just the pocket hole screws that you use. All these are gonna be inside. I'll get to the ones on the left here in a second, but if I pan in here, and that way you can see it, I basically have all along the front, at one point on the front, one on either side of the cabinet, I have those attaching to the base bottom. And you can see them along here, if you look, in between, like one right there, and I've got one right there, and there's one at the top here as well. There we go, right there. And I have those, and I also have them. I'll pan this thing up a little bit. But up inside there as well, I have them all across the side. And basically what these here and the ones back in there, those are all holding these 4 different cabinets together, and I have them all along there the same way. Now in the back up there, you can see there's one there, and I pan over here. There's only one in this cabinet. But if I pan over this cabinet, you'll see there's 2 there. And those are 3-inch deck screws. And each place there's one of those is the same place that up here above that you see. You see the lines going up, and those represent studs. So, but anyway, that's basically how they were put together. Now oh my goodness, this thing is just, now in this cabinet here, this is if you look up here, these screws here, and we got them in the back as well. And basically what these screws are going in the holding this end panel on. Now I did the exact same thing on the other end as well, but I'm gonna move around here so you can see the other side of the cabinet, and hopefully I can pan this the right way. There we go. But as you can see there, it's a nice clean. It's a nice clean side there, and then the other side is exactly the same, and that was what I was going for, was a nice clean side all the way down to the bottom. And like right here, I'm going to use the cherry that's been sitting in here. It's going to go on the edges up here at the top, and everything's going to be this width here. So it's going to have one that goes from like this piece here, and the one on the very other end all the way down there is basically going to go from the top here all the way down to the bottom, all the way down here. Okay, and it's going to go, and then let me go all the way back up here, and then there's going to be a piece that goes from here all the way down to the other end down there to meet the other piece, and that's going to be top and bottom. And then those 3 slats in between, I'll have a piece that goes over that, and that'll be the entirety of the face frame. And I'll get into that more when we get into it, but it's just doing that so that we'll have a nice face frame. And then the drawers we'll set inside the face frame there, and they'll have little 1/8-inch reveals all the way around the drawers. That'll be the end of that. So that's pretty much it for this video. Now the next video, I think what I'm going to be working on in the next video is actually the face frame and getting it complete and get it on here. And I'm probably going to get these 2 pieces here, the top, screwed together and then screwed in here. And I may actually have some time. I'm supposed to have my vices coming today that goes in the slot right here. I may actually show you how I go set this all up for my vise as well. And that'll probably be included in the next one, which will be I'll try to get the face frame done. I'll try to get the vise installed and everything that goes into that, and get this top put together, and at least get the trim around the front, which is going to be cherry here, and on the other side. And I'll try to get that all in the next video, and then probably the video after that will go into working on drawers and stuff like that. And then I figure I got one more for the top, which is going to be a laminate, and putting that on and trim, you know, doing the chamfer treatment here. And you know, I'm looking at 3, possibly 4 more videos on this one, on this build here, and I may probably do one on finishing the cabinet. You know, how I decide to finish it, I'm not quite sure yet. But then what we'll get into is the tool till. And speaking of my tool till, I actually got to use I got the down here on the end. I'll show it to you. Now, if you take a look there, you can see that little notch there. I had to notch it out, and I actually got to use my dovetail saw because it was just like a real small tool, you know, small cut and everything. So it was perfect for my dovetail saw. But I also wanted to kind of finish this video with this. And there's these 2 little things right here. Now this is my latest tools that I've gotten. I was able to pick these up. Now what these are lie-neilsen rabbit plane, or they're used for, like, you know, in the back you put like a notch in the back of a cabinet that put a panel in, and it's not big enough. That's what these are for. You can use these to widen that out. Again, these are a one-purpose tool. There is a left and a right version. One's a 98, one's a 99. I'm real happy to have these because these things are really hard to find and they're really hard to get. You can get the Stanley made a version of these, but to get the lie-neilsen, they don't make these anymore. And I've, you know, probably in the last year and a half, I've seen 3 of them come up available. I've ended up bidding on 2, and I finally was able to win the bid on these. So I'm real happy to have these because they just don't make these anymore. I also found a 112 scraper plane, large one. Right now they're temporarily out. Lie-neilsen still has them on their website, but they've temporarily quit making them. They said until further notice. But I took that to mean, well, we're probably not going to make them anymore. So I was able to find a good used 112 scraper plane, and I'll show that at a later time. But these are kind of like my little pride and joy because they just don't make these anymore, and they're kind of hard to get. So I'll have to find some special place in my tool because I didn't plan for these. I just happened to find them. So until next time, stay safe.